In the heart of ancient India, Taxila stood as a beacon of civilization. Nestled between the Indus and Jhelum rivers, this city was a crossroads of empires, where scholars from distant lands studied philosophy and astronomy, and traders exchanged silk and spices. In 326 BCE, Taxila thrived under the rule of King Ambhi, a leader whose cunning and ambition shaped his kingdom's fate. His palace, adorned with intricate carvings, overlooked a city that was both a center of learning and a strategic prize. But with great power came great vulnerability, as Taxila's location made it a target for conquerors. King Ambhi, a man of foresight, knew that his decisions would echo through history, for better or worse. From the heights of his palace, King Ambhi surveyed Taxila with pride and caution. This city was more than a home. It was a legacy of centuries, a hub where Greek, Persian, and Indian cultures met. Its university drew scholars like moths to a flame, and its markets bustled with wealth. Yet, Ambhi knew that Taxila's prosperity came with a price. Its position between empires made it a tempting target for invaders. Every day, he weighed the balance of power, knowing that one wrong move could bring ruin. As a ruler, Ambhi was not just a king but a guardian of a fragile equilibrium, determined to protect his people at all costs. Ambhi was not born to rule, he was forged for it. From a young age, his father, the King of Taxila, trained him in the arts of war and diplomacy. In the palace courtyards, Ambhi sparred with seasoned warriors, learning the weight of a blade. In the university, he debated with scholars, sharpening his mind. His father taught him that a king's true strength lies in foresight, not just force. By the time Ambhi ascended the throne, he was a master of strategy, ready to navigate the treacherous politics of ancient India. Yet, even as he wore the crown, he felt the shadow of threats looming beyond Taxila's borders. Taxila's location was both its strength and its curse. Positioned at the gateway to India, it connected the empires of Persia, Central Asia, and the Gangetic Plains. Caravans laden with silk, spices, and gold passed through its gates, making it wealthy but vulnerable. Ambhi understood that every conqueror from the west would eye Taxila as a prize. Its strategic value meant it could never remain neutral in times of war. As king, Ambhi fortified his city, but he knew that swords alone could not protect it from a determined invader. His mind was always on the horizon, watching for the next threat. In the spring of 326 BCE, Taxila buzzed with rumors of a new conqueror. Alexander the Great, the young Macedonian king, had swept through Persia, toppling the mighty Darius. His army, disciplined and relentless, was now marching toward India. In Taxila's markets, merchants spoke of his victories with fear and fascination. Some said his soldiers fought like gods, their phalanxes unbreakable. Others whispered that no kingdom could stand against him. King Ambhi, hearing these tales, knew that the shadow of Alexander was drawing closer, and with it, a decision that would define his reign. Alexander's reputation preceded him like a storm. His conquests in Persia, Egypt, and beyond painted a picture of an unstoppable force. His phalanxes, armed with long spears, moved as one, crushing armies in their path. In Taxila, the tales of his victories stirred both dread and wonder. Some citizens believed their city's walls and warriors could resist him. Others feared annihilation. Ambhi listened to these stories, knowing that Alexander's arrival would test not just his army, but his wisdom as a king. The question was not if Alexander would come, but how Taxila would survive his ambition. In the shadow of Alexander's approach, Ambhi summoned his council. The chamber buzzed with voices, warriors demanding battle, scholars urging caution, and diplomats proposing peace. Each advisor saw a different path for Taxila's future. The warriors spoke of honor, the scholars of survival, and the diplomats of compromise. Ambhi sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable as he weighed their words. He knew that the decision he made would not only determine Taxila's fate, but also his place in history. The air was thick with tension, and every eye was on the king. Taxila's warriors were fierce in their resolve. Their leader, a battle-scarred general, stood before King Ambhi, his voice booming. "We have fortified walls, trained soldiers, and mighty elephants," he declared. "Let us meet Alexander in battle and show the world Taxila's strength." The warriors cheered, their hearts burning with pride. They saw surrender as cowardice, a betrayal of their ancestors who had defended Taxila against countless foes. To them, honor was worth more than survival, and they urged Ambhi to lead them into battle, to carve their names in glory. Against the warriors' fervor, Taxila's diplomats offered a different path. Their leader, a seasoned envoy, spoke with measured words. "Alexander has crushed empires, Persia, Egypt, and countless others," he warned. "His army is disciplined, his strategies flawless. To fight him is to court destruction." The diplomat urged Ambhi to seek peace, to offer allegiance and save Taxila from ruin. He pointed to cities that had resisted Alexander and paid the price in fire and blood. Pragmatism, he argued, is not weakness, it is wisdom. Ambhi listened, his mind torn between honor and survival. In the quiet of his chamber, Ambhi wrestled with his fate. To fight Alexander risked Taxila's destruction. Its markets razed, its university burned. To surrender meant preserving his city but sacrificing his honor. His father's words echoed in his mind. A king protects his people, not his pride. Yet the thought of bowing to a foreigner stung his soul. Ambhi traced his finger over the map, seeing the faces of his people. Merchants, scholars, warriors, who trusted him to lead. The weight of the crown had never felt heavier, and the night offered no answers. After days of deliberation, Ambhi made his choice. Standing before his council, he spoke with unwavering resolve. "We will not fight Alexander," he declared. "We will offer him our allegiance to save Taxila." The chamber fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Warriors clenched their fists, scholars nodded grimly, and diplomats sighed in relief. Ambhi knew his decision would divide his people, but he believed it was the only path to survival. He steeled himself for the consequences, knowing history would judge him harshly for choosing peace over pride. To seal his alliance, Ambhi prepared a grand embassy for Alexander. Servants piled carts with gold, jewels, and fine silks, while elephants were draped in ceremonial armor. Each gift was a symbol of Taxila's wealth and submission, a calculated gesture to win Alexander's favor. Ambhi walked among the convoy, ensuring every detail was perfect. He knew these treasures would buy peace, but they also marked his surrender. As he inspected the elephants, their mighty forms reminded him of the battles he chose not to fight. His heart was heavy, but his resolve was firm. As dawn broke, Taxila's embassy set out for Alexander's camp. The convoy, laden with treasures, moved slowly through the countryside, a spectacle of wealth and submission. From his balcony, Ambhi watched, his heart torn between hope and shame. The people of Taxila lined the streets, their reactions mixed. Some saw wisdom in his choice, others whispered of betrayal. Ambhi knew that his decision had saved his city from war, but it had also fractured his bond with his people. As the elephants' trumpets faded, he wondered if history would understand his sacrifice. Alexander's camp was a marvel of military precision. Rows of tents stretched across the plains, and soldiers drilled in perfect unison, their spears gleaming. When Taxila's embassy arrived, it was met with curiosity and respect. The gold, silks, and elephants were a testament to King Ambhi's wealth and his willingness to submit. Alexander, ever the strategist, saw Taxila's value, not just as a city but as a gateway to India. He inspected the gifts, his eyes calculating, and accepted King Ambhi's offer of allegiance. For Alexander, this was not just a victory of arms, but of diplomacy. Inside his command tent, Alexander met Taxila's envoy with a keen eye. He admired King Ambhi's foresight in choosing peace over war. "Taxila will be spared," he declared, "but it will serve my campaign." The terms were clear. Ambhi would provide supplies, soldiers, and loyalty to the Macedonian cause. In return, Taxila would remain untouched, its markets and university free to flourish. The envoy bowed, accepting the alliance, knowing it secured their city's survival. For Alexander, King Ambhi's submission was a strategic triumph, strengthening his foothold in India. With the alliance sealed, Taxila came under Alexander's protection. Macedonian soldiers patrolled its streets, their presence a reminder of King Ambhi's choice. The markets continued to bustle, and scholars filled the university, but a quiet tension lingered. Many citizens were grateful for peace, knowing their homes were spared the fate of other conquered cities. Yet others felt a sting of humiliation, seeing foreign soldiers in their midst. Ambhi walked a delicate line, ensuring his city's prosperity while navigating the expectations of his new ally. Taxila thrived, but at the cost of its independence. Ambhi continued to rule, his kingdom intact under Alexander's shadow. During festivals, he appeared before his people, projecting strength and unity. The streets of Taxila were alive with music and color, a testament to its enduring prosperity. Yet, beneath the celebration, discontent simmered. Some praised Ambhi for saving their city from war. Others saw him as a king who had knelt before a foreigner. Their whispers followed him, a constant reminder of the price of his decision. Ambhi held his head high, but the weight of their judgment pressed heavily on his heart. In 325 BCE, Alexander turned back from India, his ambition tempered by the trials of his campaign. Taxila stood untouched, its walls unbreached, its people safe. King Ambhi's gamble had paid off. His city had escaped the destruction that befell others. Yet, as he watched the Macedonian army vanish into the distance, he felt no triumph. The alliance had preserved Taxila, but it had cost him the trust of many. Ambhi stood alone on the hill, wondering if he had truly saved his kingdom or merely delayed its reckoning. History would soon pass its verdict. In the solitude of his chamber, Ambhi confronted his reflection. The mirror showed a king who had saved his city, but at what cost? Flashbacks of heated council debates, the glittering embassy, and the divided faces of his people haunted him. Had he betrayed Taxila's honor to secure its survival? His father's teachings, "Protect the people, not the pride," rang in his ears, yet the whispers of betrayal stung deeper. Ambhi knew that his choice had preserved Taxila's walls, but it had cracked the spirit of its people. The mirror held no answers, only questions. Under King Ambhi's rule, Taxila flourished despite the shadow of surrender. Its markets brimmed with goods from distant lands, silk from China, spices from the south. The university welcomed scholars from Greece and Persia, their debates echoing through its halls. King Ambhi's decision had ensured this prosperity, preserving the city's role as a beacon of knowledge and trade. Yet, the whispers of his alliance with Alexander lingered like a stain. Taxila stood tall, its streets alive with activity, but Ambhi knew that his legacy would forever be tied to the choice he made. Taxila's people were a house divided. In the markets, some merchants praised King Ambhi's wisdom, grateful that their livelihoods were spared. "He saved us from war," they said, counting their coins. But in the taverns, others spoke bitterly, calling him a king who sold his honor. "A true ruler fights," they argued, their voices thick with resentment. King Ambhi's decision had preserved their homes, but it had fractured their trust. As he walked among them, he felt their eyes, some warm with gratitude, others cold with scorn. Taxila thrived, but its heart was torn. Even King Ambhi's advisors remained divided long after his decision. In private, the warriors mourned the lost chance for glory, their dreams of battlefield triumphs dashed. "We could have stood against Alexander," one grumbled, his hand on his sword. The diplomats, however, saw King Ambhi's choice as a masterstroke. He preserved Taxila's future, they argued, citing the cities that fell to Alexander's wrath. The debate raged quietly, each side convinced of their truth. King Ambhi's decision had saved the city, but it left his council fractured, a mirror of the kingdom's own divisions. Taxila became a vital cog in Alexander's war machine. Ambhi ensured his city supplied the Macedonian army with grain, weapons, and horses, fulfilling the terms of their alliance. Macedonian generals praised Taxila's efficiency, and its markets profited from the trade. Ambhi walked among the storehouses, his presence ensuring loyalty to Alexander's cause. Yet, each cart of supplies sent to the Macedonians was a reminder of his submission. Taxila's role strengthened Alexander's campaign, but it tied King Ambhi's legacy to a foreign conqueror, a fact that weighed heavily on his mind. King Ambhi's alliance with Alexander saved Taxila, but it came at a steep cost. As he walked through his city, he felt the weight of his people's judgment. Some greeted him with respect, thankful for peace. Others turned away, their eyes cold with disdain. In their whispers, he heard the word betrayal. At a temple, Ambhi paused, seeking solace, but the gods offered no clarity. His decision had preserved Taxila's walls and wealth, but it had eroded the trust of those he swore to protect. The king who saved his city now walked alone among its shadows. In Taxila's university, historians began to record King Ambhi's reign. Their scrolls captured a king who chose survival over defiance, a ruler who preserved his city at the cost of his honor. They wrote of a Taxila that thrived under his rule, its markets bustling, its scholars renowned. Yet, they also noted the whispers of betrayal that followed him. King Ambhi's decision had saved his people from war, but it had marked him as a king who knelt. As the quill scratched the parchment, his legacy took shape, a complex tale of pragmatism and sacrifice that would be debated for centuries. In Taxila's university, historians began to record King Ambhi's reign. Their scrolls captured a king who chose survival over defiance, a ruler who preserved his city at the cost of his honor. They wrote of a Taxila that thrived under his rule, its markets bustling, its scholars renowned. Yet, they also noted the whispers of betrayal that followed him. King Ambhi's decision had saved his people from war, but it had marked him as a king who knelt. As the quill scratched the parchment, his legacy took shape, a complex tale of pragmatism and sacrifice that would be debated for centuries. Seeking peace within, Ambhi turned to the gods. In Taxila's ancient temple, he knelt before the deities, offering prayers for wisdom and forgiveness. The chants of priests filled the air, but they could not silence the doubts in his heart. Had he done right by his people, or had he betrayed their trust? The gods offered no clear answer, only the weight of his choices. King Ambhi's alliance had saved Taxila from destruction, but it had left him questioning his own soul. As he rose, the temple's silence mirrored the uncertainty that haunted him. As time passed, history began to judge King Ambhi. In the annals of Taxila, he was recorded as a king who chose pragmatism over defiance, a ruler who saved his city but lost its respect. His alliance with Alexander ensured Taxila's survival, allowing it to remain a center of learning and trade. Yet, historians debated his legacy. Was he a wise leader who preserved his people, or a compromiser who bowed to a foreign conqueror? The scrolls of Taxila told a story of triumph and tragedy, a king whose name would spark arguments for centuries to come. Today, Taxila's ruins stand as a testament to its past glory, and King Ambhi's story endures as a lesson in leadership. His choice to ally with Alexander saved his city from ruin, but it cost him the trust of his people. Was he a savior or a compromiser? The answer lies in the stones of Taxila, where history whispers its truths. King Ambhi's tale reminds us that leadership demands sacrifice, and the choices we make shape not just our lives, but the legacy we leave behind. His story challenges us to weigh survival against honor. As the sun sets over Taxila's ruins, King Ambhi's story lingers in the air. He was a king who chose survival over battle, preserving his city at the cost of his honor. His alliance with Alexander ensured Taxila's place in history, but it branded him a controversial figure. Was his decision a stroke of genius or a moment of weakness? The answer depends on the lens of history. As we reflect on King Ambhi's legacy, we are left with a question. When faced with an unstoppable force, what would you choose, honor or survival? History awaits your judgment.